WILDR folks, Alicia here. You're probably watching this video because you've asked me if you can include an extra run or extra activities into your weekly workouts. And so this video is going to go over a couple things you should ask yourself before you decide to do any extra activity or extra runs. And then from there, if you do choose to do extra, some things to think about when you're doing them. So let's hop right into it. There are two questions you need to ask yourself if you're going to add in an extra run, let's say. And sometimes these pop up out of nowhere. Maybe a friend asked if you wanted to go on a particular hike or walk or run with them, or you've got another fun activity that just kind of happened to show up and you want to take part. And that is awesome and exciting. I always encourage people to take every advantage that you can to connect with others by getting outside and getting after it. But sometimes we do need to make a couple changes to our program in order to make sure that we're not overtraining. So let's talk about the two questions we're going to ask ourselves. The first one is, how do I feel? And for this, you need to kind of get some objective data as well as some subjective data. So the first thing you'll do is that subjective data. You got to be real with yourself. Take a couple deep breaths and do a little bit of a body scan. And I want you to pay attention to how your body feels in every single joint and all your muscles to make sure that we're not really fatigued in an area that might get further fatigued or injured by our activity. So to do a body scan, you just want to close your eyes, and you can do this with me if you want, if you're thinking about that extra activity right now. Take a deep breath, and you're going to start at the tips of your toes. You're going to wiggle them, and you're going to check in and see how do they feel right now. Toe wiggle, then you're going to start getting your whole feet going. You're going to spread your toes as wide as you can and flex your feet. Bring your toes together as much as you can, point your toes, and see how your ankles and feet feel. This is going to make you a little bit aware of your calves and your shins. How are they feeling? Are there any aches or pains, twinges or pushes? Make sure you're paying attention to that. You're going to go up into your knees. How do your knees feel? Do they feel spacious and bright, or is there pain and any stiffness in them? Scanning up into your hamstrings and your quads. Are they tight? Are they turned on? Are they relaxed? Is there pain anywhere? And you're going to just move those knees a little bit when you think about that. And then from there, you're going to move your legs up and down, and you're going to feel your butt and your hips. How are your hips feeling? And all those muscles that support our hips and keep them together. How's that going? Take a look at that. Then work into your core. How is your core feeling? How do your rib cage and your lower spine feel? From there, you're going to start kind of twisting through the upper body. How do my shoulder blades feel? My shoulders, my chest. Am I feeling good? Am I not feeling so good? Into my neck. Do I have tension? Do I have stiffness or soreness? Or am I feeling pretty free, flowy, and light? Into my jaw, and then up through the muscles of my face. Okay, come on back with me. So you want to pay attention to if you had any hot spots or areas that need a little bit of extra attention. And what I'm going to say is, if you want to go do that extra activity or that extra run, you should give yourself 5 minutes to stretch or mobilize that area if there's an area that's giving you any soreness. And then be honest with yourself. If you are feeling really run down, tired and fatigued, then maybe an extra activity isn't smart for you, and you should do some gentle recovery instead. But that's something you got to figure out by yourself, especially when you're using subjective measures. Then there's the objective side of things. So if you have a watch, many of you guys do, that looks at your resting heart rate, then I want you to pull up that app on your phone or watch or computer and take a look at what your resting heart rate has been doing in the last kind of 3 or 4 days compared with that before. If you have an elevated resting heart rate, so that's what would be your unit, shows that as the lowest heart rate that you've had throughout your whole day, sleeping and waking. If you've got an elevated resting heart rate, then we want to avoid really hard activities for the day. And that doesn't mean we can't do any activities, but we should avoid hard or strenuous activities that can break us down. It's probably a good indication that your body needs a little bit of rest and recovery so that you can super compensate and end up stronger than you were before. Okay, the second question you need to ask, I know the big first question had a lot of sub-questions, so the second question you need to ask is, looking at my weeks, how much has my mileage increased over the last few weeks? So for some of you, if you're getting ready for a distance that's longer than you've ever done before, you might be in the middle of a mileage increase. And you'll notice that maybe last week your long run was 20K, but this week it was 23K, and your weekly mileage has gone up as well. If that's the case, you need to be really careful about adding mileage because we want to stay, give or take, within that 10% rule. Even if we're working at a really low intensity, if we are increasing how much mechanical stress we put on our joints by increasing our mileage by over 10 to 15% in a single week, we can kind of put ourselves in a situation where we might get injured. So listen to your body, but then look at your mileage. And if you're not in the middle of a mileage build, then you can incorporate that extra activity. No big deal. Now, let's say you have decided you're going to do this extra activity. Sometimes it's hard to know if you should push it or if you should take it easier, that kind of thing. Here's what I recommend. A lot of times you can probably take that activity that you're going to do and replace one of the workouts that I've assigned for you for that week with that workout. Now, when I'm creating these workouts for you, particularly the energy system ones, the ones that say ES at the beginning of the workout, they are trying to get a very specific physiological change to be made in your system. So you need to very closely mimic your work to rest ratios if you're going to replace a workout with a recreational activity. So for instance, if I was going to be doing a mountain bike ride, I would probably be able to replace a workout that was really heavily interval based with hard work and recovery in zone 2. So just think about what that activity is demanding and then think about the workouts that you have been given. And if you can replace one instead of adding on, then that's going to be a good thing. If you can't replace, if you're simply adding on, that's okay too. Just try and at least end, ideally stay the whole time, but at least end in 10 to 15 minutes of zone 2. So really easy biking or walking or running at the end. Way easier than you want it to be because we want to flush any lactate that we've built and make sure that we're not fatigued or negatively affected for our next sessions. So if you want to add that other session in, make sure it is at a low intensity, particularly if it's a full-on add-on. And if you can't do an easy intensity the entire time, make sure you have flush at the end. And then if you are, I always like to say that if I'm going to go and do a bonus activity, I need to spend a little bit of time working on my mobility and recovery at the end. So that means at the end of that bonus activity that you're doing, you need to make sure you get protein and carbohydrates within half an hour to an hour of that activity. Ideally, you're finishing with zone 2 easy so that you're not accumulating fatigue, so to speak. Next thing you want to do is make sure that you are doing some bonus mobility just to keep things free and fresh and flowing. And if you follow all those guidelines, then putting a different workout in, adding a workout day shouldn't be a problem at all. But the last thing you need to do is let me know on TrueCoach that you've done this. So you can send me a message and say, hey, today I also did this much of a bike ride and I felt great, or whatever it actually is. And if you do that, then I can take that into account with your mileage building, with the energy systems we're working on, with our strength work in the gym. And that really helps me make a full and complete program for you. All right, I think that's all I have to say for today. So I hope you have a wilder one and get after it. See you next time.